It could be a barren monochrome surface of the moon. Lifeless orange expanse of rock on Mars. Harsh beauty of a stormy surface from distant Jupiter, hiding a fiery world below. But it's not. We are at the very edge of China.
They just line up all along here.
Almost like little volcanoes.
Far out there, these iconic, seemingly unchanging silent landscapes are living.
Look at this.
Wow!
Living proof of how China was once born. Thrives. And what its future holds at a time of disruptive environmental change. Only a team of multidisciplinary experts.
Oh, it's high, it's not rock.
Scientists.
Oh, lovely.
Explorers, and those who have adapted to these extreme lands have the power to unpick scattered clues for millions of years.
Wow, it's a complete ammonite.
And showcase the beauty, the bounty, the violence, and fragility.
Any buildings, any bridges built on this stuff, it's a real problem.
That makes what we call home. The Tibetan Plateau is the largest plateau on Earth. It covers almost 25% of China and is home to the most extreme mountain range on the planet, the Himalayas. This is China's highest and most remote region.
I am Professor Dougal Jerram and I love rocks.
I grew up in Yunnan province. I spent a lot of time in the mountains.
They will travel up an ancient river valley to explore a remote glacier and witness the impact of climate change on the water tower of Asia.
The lake was once much deeper and it burst out.
They will discover how the locals live in this harsh climate.
藏族世世代代都是吃这个青稞为主。
And learn how China's landscapes grow so high.
In the altitude for 1,323 meters, and we found something from the sea.
地震以后，这10几秒以内，这个院子一下子抬高了10米。
And why they're still growing. Lhasa is one of the highest cities in the world. And at over 3,500 meters above sea level, this bustling city is an oasis for local people and their ancient culture. What people here don't know is that much of the landscape just under their feet was down under in the southern hemisphere. Explorer Zhao Zhao is meeting up with a local geologist to solve this little-known mystery about the terrain around this mountain city. On a rocky hillside southwest of Lhasa, scientists are studying the birth of the Tibetan Plateau. To do that, they're using magnetism. Professor Li is examining the magnetic signature left behind in rocks. He's interested in knowing their paleolatitude, a scientific term used to identify their ancient origins.
我们看一下它这个样品，这块还比较硬，这个还是比较新鲜的，你看一下。哦，对，藏日群火山岩呢，就是形成在大概是早朱罗氏，大概在180万年，1亿8千万年啊。然后我们就是想确定一下，就是当时拉萨这一块它位于一个什么样的古纬度。
那怎么会根据这个岩石可以查出它的古纬度来呢？
根据这个古地磁学的原理呢，就是说，在这个火山岩喷发形成的时候呢，它会记录当时这个古代地磁场的方向。
But the natural magnetism in the surroundings can interfere with the compass readings. So rock samples are collected and their precise geographic position and orientation recorded using a sundial.
贝塔38，太阳影子268。好，我们就取点，把这个样品取了之后，一会儿放到样品袋里给它分上就可以。这是杠3。好。
This volcanic rock acquired a magnetic charge as it formed in the planet's crust. When it cooled, the direction of the magnetic charge was frozen in time. Even if the rock moves, this memory remains unchanged. By comparing the current position of the Earth's poles today with the data locked in the rock, Dr. Li can work out where it originated.
从拉萨东面的桑日县一直往西，到雅江北面，这都是那个火山岩。中满三叠的时候，我们拉萨这块可能还是位于南半球更高纬度，可能南纬10几度附近，
相当于今天的什么地方呢？
大概现在的巴布亚新几内亚或者澳大利亚这个附近吧。
哦。
The ancient rocks here have made a surprisingly long journey. The Tibetan Plateau is in the northern hemisphere, almost 5,000 kilometers from what we call Australia today. The question is, how did they get here? The arid terrain just north of Mount Everest is thousands of meters above sea level. Zhao Zhao is headed into a world peppered with clues to a mystery as old as the planet itself. She's met up with local paleobiologist Fang Gongyu, who specializes in ancient life on the Tibetan Plateau.
这个就是我们所称的结合 nodule. Sometimes nodule can contain fossil. You see here, we can see some detailed structure of ammonite.
Ammonites were a type of ancient marine life that went extinct millions of years ago. Scientists have found marine fossils scattered all over the Himalayas, even on the slopes of Mount Everest. Natural forces have scattered them across the area. Finding a complete fossil can identify exactly what creatures once lived here.
Wow, it's a complete ammonite.
Wow, it looks like the sea snails.
Actually, this one is an extinct relative of squid.
In the altitude 4,321, and we found something from the sea, the marine fossils.
It told us where we're standing used to be an ocean.
The ocean.
Yeah.
Much of the terrain on the highest mountains in the world was at the bottom of an extinct sea called Tethys. This barren place was once teeming with amazing sea life, until it disappeared. The roof of the world, a dry and cold place at the limits of human habitation, was once in the southern hemisphere. So what caused such a huge transformation? It started with a cataclysmic event 56 million years ago. The Earth's crust was a mass of drifting plates. One of these drifted north from where Australia is today and crashed headlong into the Asian continent. Sliding underneath, it pushed the Himalayas up to incredible heights. An ancient sea disappeared forever, leaving marine life scattered over the plateau. But this collision isn't over yet. Even after tens of millions of years, the Australian plate is still pushing north at an incredible 6 centimeters a year. It causes earthquakes as it spreads. This was Asia's biggest bang. Its impact was felt right here. A magnitude 8 earthquake was born by this town. But today, it serves both as memorial and laboratory for experts to analyze how these forces work. Did you know the roads we use every day were once part of a supercontinent? 250 million years ago, Pangaea broke up. The pieces moved all over and formed the continents we know today. Some scientists argue in another 250 million years, our continents will join up again and create another supercontinent with Asia at its center. The far eastern edge of the Tibetan Plateau rises 1,000 meters above the Sichuan Basin. Locals have named it the Natural Great Wall. It's where two of the Earth's giant plates meet. Over a decade ago, a magnitude 8 trembler struck here with massive force. British geologist Dougal Jerram joins local seismologist Professor He Yu-Lin to see just how much the landscape was transformed.
这里我们可以看到一座地震前一个房子，房子前面有一个非常大的院子。对，地震以后，在10几秒以内，我们的这个院子西侧一下子抬高了10米。我们 here we can see the biggest offside.
So this bit of concrete was the yard?
Yeah, yeah.
10 meters that way?
Yeah, 10 meters.
Wow. And to imagine this happened just in seconds.
Yeah, during one earthquake.
On May 12, 2008, the fault line close to Beichuan shifted violently. The small town was almost completely destroyed. The buildings here stand frozen in time. For Dougal, a geologist who studies change measured in eons, it's a rare opportunity to see how landscapes can be impacted in seconds.
What is it about the geology here that's made this town have such a problem?
这里由于这个青藏高原的隆起，使它的物质由西往东不断的推挤，它遇到了我们四川盆地的这个刚性块地的阻挡，迅速成山，因此这边岩石变形、褶皱啊、断裂啊非常发育，其中这个龙目山断裂带就是其中一条。
At a basement on the edge of town, Dougal gets a view inside the Longmen fault.
We can see a different kind of rock. 黑的地层呢，形成年龄很老，这边是第四纪中产层，年轻。那么借老的地层冲到新的地层上，这是由断层作用影响，它的吸盘上升，风盘下降。
How long would that have taken?
Several seconds.
Several seconds?
Yeah.
Wow.
Powerful tectonic forces are transforming our living planet. Over the course of time, our landscapes will be totally remade. And if we pay close attention, it reveals treasure. The precious stones and minerals that mankind cherishes. High on the plateau, this bounty is drawn from a vast terrain. Humans have been living in this hard place for thousands of years, and they've learned to rely on nature. They became experts at gathering. Their knowledge passed from generation to generation. Often, the materials they seek are the most humble. A shy plant growing on a hillside, a root, a grass. From the beginning, man has balanced his health by using the landscapes around him. He can thrive at the far edges of China because of this enduring relationship. Dougal has teamed up with a group of Tibetan doctors to search this quarry for mineral-based medicines.
You take these and you crush it and you make medicine.
Dr. Ren and his group are custodians of a tradition that dates back millennia. They keep locations like these a secret. Some of this rock has hardened into marble. Like geology of any sort, it comes down to who has the best hammer.
Very good.
In and amongst their landscape that they live in, they have access to several different types of minerals and several different sources of elements that they might want to use in their medicine. And there could be an interesting link there as to why they've been able to develop some of their ideas about medicine because of the availability and richness of the ground beneath their feet.
Dr. Ren and his colleagues are looking for a calcite that over millions of years has formed into crystals.
So these are the sorts of layers you're trying to find the crystals in, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look, see what we can find. It's all quite hard stuff. Here, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, your crystals, yeah. So you would take this stuff and you break back at the hospital? Yeah. Can I have a go? Excellent.
Wow, you get to a powder very quickly.
现在就你看扎细了，差不多了。这个扎碎完了过后，我们就开始去读这个里面。
The process for creating a medicine mirrors nature. Pressure grinds the materials into a powder. A lot of heat, a dose of barley wine, and repeat. Did you know traditional Chinese medicine has used minerals and rocks in their remedies for thousands of years? Some of the more exotic Tibetan preparations include gold, silver, copper, iron, and even diamonds in their therapies. The high plateau is a place of constant geological change. As mountains grow, mineral treasures are uncovered. The mountain Kampa people have been traveling this remote region and trading in this bounty for generations. The terrain has shaped their wild spirit and beliefs. And it supplies them with what they need to thrive in these mountains. Kending is nestled in an ancient valley on the eastern edge of the Tibetan Plateau. This town used to be a major part of the tea road leading to the rest of Southeast Asia. It's also a hub for traditional medicine. People come here to find medical therapies that evolved as part of this unique culture. This hospital is known for its homemade Tibetan remedies that contain many types of minerals. Dougal is meeting Dr. Ren at his clinic to find out how the geology of high mountains influences his work.
你好，你好。What are some of the common problems that you get at the hospital?
基本上都是他那个居住在高海拔地区，那么对那些关节骤阳变形，还有那些运动上的肌理啊，它那个损伤的那些特别多。
And just how important are the big mountains of the Himalayas to you?
在那个山区，在一定的海拔，它采的有些药对那个高原上的有些疾病啊，它有特殊的疗效。
Traditional medicines have a long history in China. Doctors were aware that many problems people face are directly linked to their environment. So finding remedies in nature makes good sense.
这是全是我们自己医院内部的那个制剂。
Wow. It sort of tastes earthy. Quite bitter.
这个药我们吃了以后，它针对那些各种的那个疾病也有那个作用。今天我们采的那个矿物药，也就是要用到这上面。
But even as the mountains of the high plateau challenge those who live here, they are the source of an essential element necessary for life: water. China's Great Plateau is the third largest store of ice in the world. There are so many glaciers here, it's known as the water tower of Asia. As glaciers melt, they erode the mountains beneath them. Vast amounts of water and mineral nutrients are carried into the region's greatest rivers. From the top of the plateau, the Yarlung Zaohao River drops 4,500 meters and washes over the foothills of the Himalayas. It is the highest major river in the world. Where it passes, life blossoms. Did you know Himalayan glaciers supply water to 6 of the largest rivers in Asia? It's not the only way these great mountains bring water. The Himalayas are so high that rain clouds in the south have trouble crossing these massive peaks. The result is the monsoon rainstorms of Asia that makes all that wonderful diversity possible. In a small valley in the eastern part of the Tibetan Plateau lies the village of Sha Baisang. Here, people are keenly aware of nature's cycles. They've learned to work with the ultimate high-altitude survivor, highland barley.
Look at this barley, I look at that and then I see the journey that started millions and millions of years ago. The formation of the Himalayas, and then the glaciers grind away at the rocks. They turn them into that sort of rock flour, and that in turn gets run down the mountains, and all of that builds up to something that can be used by man.
Fed by glacier melt, this sturdy little grain thrives at altitudes above 2,500 meters. It's used for everything from bread to wine.
扎实的嘞，妈妈。
Hi.
Hi. Hi， 你们好。好。
I am amazed you are using just that to cut all of this barley. Is it possible for me to have a go? Can I have a go?
You want to try? Yeah, go ahead.
This? This? Yeah.
As long as the great river keeps on supplying water and nutrients, each harvest promises another year of life on this plateau. Geng Chui, the team's Kampa guide, invites Dougal and Zhao Zhao to try barley flour dough, or as it's known locally, sampa.
So this is barley.
然后这个是这样吃的。
公秋，你们每天都要吃吗？
对呀，藏族人吃的就是这个。
So how important is this high altitude barley to the Tibetan culture, Chinese Tibetan culture?
特别重要，这个藏族世世代代都是吃这个青稞为主，没有这个青稞的话，就是没有吃的了，不能生存。
我们就搅是吗？With fingers.
It's like a Tibetan cookery lesson.
Yeah. It's not easy, right?
Oh dear.
Mountains bring hardship, and in return, supply gifts that make life possible. Barley is a tough food for a tough place. landscape shapes the lives of people on this plateau. They've adapted to harsh places, finding a way to live in harmony with what the earth provides.
What I have learned from this journey, actually it's the landscape, the mountains, the rivers, the glaciers, and the geology that decide who we are and how we live.
"20,000 years ago, glaciers covered over 30% of the Earth's surface. When climates warmed, the ice retreated to high and cold places. Every few thousand years, the Earth cools, the ice returns, and the process starts again. This sets the rhythm of life on our planet. But lately, this natural pattern is being disrupted. How do glaciers reflect this new reality? Yaqing Hua is a physical geographer from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and Jeffrey Cargill is a planetary scientist from the United States. They are on an international expedition to a remote glacier in western Sichuan, where the climate changes more quickly than anywhere else on the Tibetan Plateau.
Hello,
Hi.
Ni hao.
Hi.
There are reports of a lake growing at the glacier's edge that may be overflowing.
Dougal. Wow, I see we're all lots of kit here.
They will be the first team ever to explore this glacier from the ground.
7 to 8 hours.
It's a 2-day journey over rocky terrain to reach the ice. Sure-footed Tibetan horses are still the best way to travel. For Dougal, it's a journey through the plateau's geological history.
This is a really long glacial valley that we're walking up here. But as you go up, there's some really cool glacial features. You see these perched valleys on the side of the much bigger valley. And these are called hanging valleys. And they would have been where a smaller glacier came in and joined the much bigger one.
Giant glaciers carved out these wide, U-shaped valleys. Today, the ice has retreated far into the mountains. The weather on the southeast is wilder than any other part of the Tibetan Plateau.
Have to stay warm.
At 4,300 meters, it changes hour by hour. So the team sets up camp in a narrow valley pasture to escape the blistering winds. Rain, hail, and fog dominates this environment.
I've not blown this up at altitude before.
While Dougal labors with the altitude, the local Kampas have little difficulty. Their ancestors were caravaneers, trading horses and tea over the same trails a century ago. Without their intimate knowledge of these wild mountains, the journey would be a lot harder. As the last rays of the sun recede behind the mountains, the temperatures plummet to far below freezing. Did you know the Earth was once largely covered in ice? 20,000 years ago, glaciers covered 30% of the Earth's land area. Today, glaciers cover just over 10%, most of them in the Arctic and Antarctic. If all the world's glaciers melted, our sea level could rise 75 meters. High up on the Tibetan Plateau in western Sichuan, the Rahuchia Glacier towers 5,000 meters above sea level. Far from civilization, its pristine landscapes are rarely seen. For our research team, today's dawn ascent will be their first time venturing into this hidden corner of China.
Wow.
Wow! Look at this! A lake!
The first task is to survey a glacial lake hemmed in by a rocky embankment, known as an end moraine. The glacier's ice deposited the rocks here long ago. Today, the lake is in danger of breaching this natural dam.
We saw some indications in the end moraine that the lake was once much deeper, and it burst out, probably in a pretty violent...
These sort of V's that cut through the moraines.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a telltale signal that there had been an outburst.
Collapses. Yeah.
It's clear from the size of the lake that the ice is melting rapidly.
People worry about if the glacier has melted too much.
Yes.
Maybe 20 years or 40 years later, no waters can come from the glaciers.
Glaciers tend to be very important for water supplies. They store up water during the seasons when there's ample precipitation, like money going into a bank account. Then when the dry season hits and water becomes scarce downstream, it's usually sunny and it may be warm, and the glaciers melt and release some of that water that they stored up. They act as natural reservoirs, and this is a very important service.
The glacier itself acts like a conveyor belt, bringing rocks down from the mountains. It plucks the rocks from them and dumps them at the front of the glacier. And as the glacier moves up and down the mountain, you get these lumps and lumps of rocks, and it's a really difficult terrain to walk over.
As ice grinds down the terrain, it produces a fine powder scientists call rock flour. This milky water restores minerals to land far below the mountain. Without this relationship between ice and rock, our landscapes could not be renewed.
I want to show you something. What looks just like dirt, like rocks and soil. Let me take one of those rocks.
Yeah. Oh, it's ice, not rock.
You're holding some glacier.
Wow.
Now I want to tell you something about this, these rocks that we've been walking on.
Yes.
There's also ice under there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even up here, you can see just a thin layer of debris on top of it. So that debris comes from mostly rocks falling down from the mountain. Some of it comes from the bottom of the glacier, where the glacier is sliding along the rock.
This eternal dance between ice and rock is a symbiotic one. Rocks sometimes act like armor, protecting the ice from the elements.
The yellow rock is standing on a small hill of ice. This rock has protected the ice from melting as fast as the rest of the ice. And that's something that glacier scientists study, is how the rock protects the ice, or exposed ice lets it melt faster.
Glaciers are not just blocks of ice. They are complex structures, highly sensitive to landscapes and climates around them. By midday, the team has reached the tip of the ice and is ready to conduct research here for the first time. Before now, physical geographer Hie-Ching Hua has only seen satellite images of this glacier. Her first job is to find out what secrets this ice holds. While some of the team takes GPS readings on the surface of the ice, she uses a drone to capture images to make a digital model, or DM.
We have satellite data from earlier periods, which we can generate the DM. So we use the drone to get the DM also, and we can compare the elevation differences in long history.
So once you've collected all of this stuff, all over Himalayas, what sort of things are you finding out?
In the last 30 years, this region,
last 30 years.
just say this patch is glaciers, it has lost 8 kilometers of the glaciers.
So why are the glaciers here moving so rapidly?
It's because of the warming climate in recent several decades. For the southeast part of the Tibet, the glacier locates at lower altitude, so it's affected more by the warming temperature.
It's really quite incredible to think, 30 years ago, the ice would be right at my legs, and now it's all the way over there. Wow.
I'm worried about climate change. So if that means the melting glaciers can tell us something.
Climate change has been happening for billions of years due to solar cycles, due to volcanic activity, due to many things. This glacier obviously has been melting a lot, and the recent melting is due mainly to human-caused climate change. In fact, if it wasn't for greenhouse gas emissions, the Earth would probably now be going into a slight cooling period.
Glaciers are like weather vanes. They point to what may be in store for our planet. As the day wanes, they reach the mouth of the glacier. Here, they can investigate a vital clue. Ice.
117.660 for calculated.
They look for samples clear of sediment and rock to calculate how fast it's melting. Dr. Yea passes on what may well be water in its most pristine form. It's moments like these that make such expeditions worth the effort.
Himalaya over millennia served as a natural divider of people. But how I like to view it now is here we are, a very multinational group of people. There are Chinese, Americans, Brits. The Himalaya have brought us together. And that's what I hope the Himalaya can be, a source of unity of spirit more than of division.
Look at this.
Wow, yeah.
That's absolutely
Amazing.
isn't it?
Did you know Chomolungma, or Mount Everest, grows as much as 2 centimeters every year? As it rises, wind, rain, and glaciers wear away the rocks and sediment on its sides. This gives the mountain its distinctive triangular shape. After visiting a melting glacier on Gunga Mountain, Dougal and Jiao Jiao are at its oldest monastery to find out what impact the high plateau has on people's lives. 700-year-old Gunga temple has stood witness to the many changes on the mountain.
Oh my goodness. Look at this.
Yeah, it's look original.
Oh, that's fantastic, isn't it? Over 700 years old. That's a really old building, and
Here, the glacier story is told in a different way. According to legend, when melting glaciers threatened to wash local villages away, the monks of Gunga Monastery intervened with mountain gods and ended the flooding.
And I think that's a really beautiful way in which their kind of beliefs of how the mountain is affecting things and changing things. Historically, often people have stories about the landscape and the places that they live, which actually relate to events that happened in time. And sometimes as scientists, we can tap into that information and find out about the landscape and how it's changed from events that we weren't able to see, but generations before were able to see it.
Look at the people on mountains, on glaciers. Human beings are so powerful because we can adapt to the extreme conditions very well. When I climb the mountains, we have to get insight on the weather, the wind, and the cloud. We have to put it together and think of it as a system. People in front of nature, we are so tiny.
More than 1 billion people live on either side of the mighty Himalayas and depend on their life-nourishing bounties.
wow.
At the apex of which lie the great glacial systems. But their increasing fragility via man-made action has made it vital to take responsibility for these iconic natural wonders.
China's a big place, and with the Himalayas and with the rest of Asia, it plays a vital role in understanding how our planet works. And so the work that's going on in China, much of which is going on by Chinese scientists on the ground, can particularly unearth some very important things about the evolution of our planet, but also what we might do in the future to understand where we go from here.